What is up, W Sports Podcast listeners? It's Jimothy Tubby. We are back again, and we're going to recap all the things from I would say, great wild card weekend. We're glad that you all joined us. If you haven't already, make sure that you pause real quick, hit that subscribe button, so that way you don't miss the next time we go live or next time we release a podcast episode. But because the wild card round went all the way Saturday through Monday, we thought, hey, what better way to do it than just do a live podcast episode this week as we recap all of week one, Tubby. So welcome back to the show.
Yeah, I mean there's some good games. I think there was more blowouts than I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, so I did. Unfortunately, I'm gonna say I'm sorry to everybody. I bragged about how good we were with picks over over the history of the W Sports Podcast. I think what is this, year 4 going for us,
Mm-hmm.
and this is by far the worst round we've had ever. And I think we'll get into some of those things that kind of, I'm not going to say
Mm-hmm.
shocked us, but definitely did not go according to plan. We'll definitely get to talk to you about your feelings on obviously the Packers and just kind of the way that went
Yeah.
down. But I want to start us off today with one of my favorite coaches in all of college football right now, which is Coach Prime. And there is quite a bit of smoke already for him going to Dallas. And there's a lot of ties, a lot of reasons why. ESPN's all over it. But Tubby, I think people, if they've been listening to the podcast, they know, again, he's one of my favorite coaches. What are your thoughts of this? Do you think it's a legitimate chance, or do you think that it's just smoke? There is not going to actually have any movement with this?
I think there's a legitimate chance. I mean, the relationship that him and Jerry Jones still have is still a solid one. I think that it very well could materialize that way because Jerry's going to try to take a shot. I mean, he wasn't able to retain Mike McCarthy, which is probably for the best for them. I mean,
Yeah.
we've talked about how far. I mean, the surprise for me is that McCarthy's getting interviews still, which is wild to me. But yeah, I think it'd be a solid hire. I mean, I've warmed up a little bit more to Coach Prime as a coach, and I think he would probably be a lot better NFL coach, to be honest with you, just because I think that his message would probably go a little bit more along the lines with the NFL than it would be college, because he's not having to be on the road recruiting all the time. Now he just gets to focus on his set of players and then on the free agency. Because I mean, he called the Raiders and threw his name in the hat there, and they were like, we're not really interested in. But then Dallas news broke, and I think it would be good. I'll say the one thing that lately that has really helped me kind of warm up a little bit to him as a coach was I saw a video the other day of him in a team meeting, for the start of spring, and he's talking about all the NIL money and all this stuff, and he's like, you're not showing up to class, you're getting F's and D's and stuff like that. He said, we're going to take part of your check. That's what would happen in the NFL. You don't do your job. You don't show up on time. You don't do this. You're going to get fined. So we're going to go ahead and do that to you. If you start failing classes, not showing up to classes, we're going to start taking money from your NIL checks.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, maybe he does have, the players' best interest going, okay, I'm going to try to build these kids, build responsibility, accountability. And I think that would probably go, it would help him a lot in the NFL. I think a lot of those guys, especially on the defensive side, would definitely buy into that.
Yeah, I think one of the crazy things when I think about that is the fit. I mean, what better team is there for him to coach in the NFL than the Dallas Cowboys? I think Cowboy
Yep.
fans would love it. I think the one hiccup to it is he said, "I will only coach in the NFL." He's previously said this, if I can coach both my sons. Now, I think he can get. I wouldn't worry about Shiloh, but for Shadur,
Yeah.
for them to get him in the draft, they would have to trade up. And I think that there is some tension of, do we actually want Dak Prescott long term, short term, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they sign Coach Prime, if this all happens, then they have the need to go out and trade up to get the top 2 pick. And that just makes that price that much more expensive. I think they'd had to make the trade first and then sign him and all those kind of things. So that's the
Yeah.
one reason why I say, like, it may not happen. But I mean,
Yeah.
Jerry Jones, write him a check for whatever he wants and bring it to him. So I don't know. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and I do think that
Mm-hmm.
if I was a Cowboys fan, I would be feeling pretty confident it'll happen. And if I was a Colorado Buffaloes fan, I'd be like, well, we had a good run.
Yeah. I mean, think about it though. Any of those teams at the top, yeah, Dak Prescott's contract is big.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, we've talked about, all these quarterbacks in the NFL. Dak Prescott, you look at the numbers. Yeah, the playoff record's not great, but he's a good quarterback when he's on the field for the
Mm-hmm.
most part. And a lot of those teams would take a veteran quarterback that has shown he's an NFL, caliber quarterback, throw in some picks, and it could be very realistic that, a team like the Titans or the Giants or something would jump on that because, or I mean, even the Browns. I mean, get rid of Deshaun Watson. I'm sure there's probably a way out of that contract now with the second Achilles tear. I'm sure that you can find some way out of that contract and then go from there. Or maybe, all right, we'll swap contracts, and then after this year, the Cowboys buy him out or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's NFL. Magic money is what I would say. They'll
Mhm.
figure it out. Don't worry about that. If you're a Dallas fan, just give me Coach Prime is what they got to be saying. Another coach news: we got the Jaguars. They're going to be looking for a new head coach. This is absolutely no surprise. The only surprise is that it didn't happen right before the bye week. I think Doug Pederson.
Mhm.
This is just a hard franchise to really coach right now, and it's fallen on deaf ears. That place needs to be blown up and rebuilt from the ground up yet again. Hopefully, in time for a new stadium that's going to get built. Any big thought? Go ahead.
I mean,
Sorry.
you have to get someone in there that's going to get the best out of Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
That's your main objective right now. And they tried that with Doug Pederson. I wasn't a big fan of the Doug Pederson hire because I really didn't think Doug Pederson was that great of a quarterback coach like everyone thought he was. And I think it kind of showed what happened there. So I think you go out there and, I mean, I'm swinging for the fences, and I'm going for a guy like Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson would be the perfect guy because we saw what he was able to do with Jared Goff. Now, it might be different not being able to solely focus on that, the offensive side, but at least he's there and he knows how to build around a quarterback and make the quarterback the best he can be.
Yeah. The other big head coaching news I want to hit real quick before we go into the just the rest of the conversation about the weekend's games. We got Patriots hiring Mike Vrabel a year later. I still don't understand the Rob Mayo decision last year. I don't understand it this year. The timing of it. I think Vrabel is a great head coach. I think you're going to see him bring some stability to a team that has had it and they were on the brink of not having it. So. They got to get the things fixed, but I do think it's a good hire. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, we were both shocked when Vrabel didn't end up with a job last year. We thought he was the best candidate out there, and I thought the same thing this year. I mean, he brings, like you said, he knows how to build a culture. As bad as, I mean, look how bad the Titans were without him this year, without that culture that he had built. And we texted about this. The funny part is that they fired him because him and the GM did not get along because they saw different avenues of success, and then they turn around and fire the GM.
Yeah, the GM's not very good.
So I mean, the Titans fumbled, the Patriots fumbled with the Gerard Mayo, but they made up for it getting Vrabel a year later, and now you get a guy in there that can build some culture because the guy made it to the playoffs almost every single year with Ryan Tannehill as his quarterback.
Yeah, way past Ryan Tannehill's prime. So I don't know. It's a good hire for the Patriots. I don't know what I do feel like the tail to hire some of these coaches is a little bit longer because again, as always, a lot of these candidates are still coaching right now. So we'll see. The Vikings, we'll get to that. They may have a couple of replacement guys going out the door as well. So we'll get more to that. But let's just dive in right now. We got the first game. We both felt, I would say on a confidence scale, we're both at least a 6 out of 10 that it was the Texans were going to lose, but they came out. And I want to know, do you think that they dominated from an offensive standpoint or that the Chargers lost this game ultimately, through the 4 turnovers that Justin Herbert had thrown the picks, more than he had all season? Is this more Chargers' fault or Texans' fault?
I think the Texans just went out there and controlled the game, period. They did what we said they needed to do, and that was give Joe Mixon the ball 25 plus times, gave it to him 26 times, rushed for 106 yards, touchdown. And then the Chargers defense that we've seen all season just kind of fell asleep the last few weeks, and that's what happened. I mean, because Stroud had a solid game. It wasn't, mind blowing numbers, but he had a good solid game, 1 turnover, not bad. But yeah, I was surprised how dominant the Texans defense looked. this week. And I wonder if part of it was, I mean, obviously they heard the noise from Rex Ryan,
Yeah.
and maybe that was part of it. And they're like, hey, everyone's writing this off. They're saying it's a bye week for the Chargers, having to play us. So, yeah, I think that it was just a dominant performance from the Texans.
Yeah, and the Chargers are built to win the game if they can run the ball extremely. If they dominate the trenches and run the ball, don't turn the ball over.
Yep.
They did everything wrong. They turned the ball over. They couldn't run the ball, and they couldn't bottle up Joe Mixon enough to where they had to make the Texans one-sided.
Yeah,
you're going to lose every time if you're the Chargers. Now, I think that the Chargers are on the cusp of doing something and building the next 2 years. So watch out for this team. And the fact that they made the playoffs this year, I think, is just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
But this was the limiting factor of this team. And so more on Justin Herbert here in a little bit.
And we possibly saw the worst extra point attempt in NFL history.
Yeah.
I've never seen a ball go straight up in the air like that in my life.
Yeah, it was almost it's very comical. I mean, it's just like I don't even know how that can happen.
No,
but it was a great way to kick off the playoffs itself, because then we followed that game up with the Baltimore Ravens versus the Steelers, which is the third time it felt like in 2 months. I mean, we just seen this team so many times. And what did you see from Baltimore that gives you confidence going into this weekend? But not only that, like, hey, further even a deeper run.
They gave Derrick Henry the football. They ran the football
6 times. Derrick Henry ran the football. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, and their run defense, which has been their strength all year. I mean, it's been such polar opposites on the defense. The secondary has been so bad. The run defense has been really good. They were able to completely shut down the Steelers' run game. And, I mean, Russell Wilson did not have a bad game. I mean, you look at the numbers, 20 for 29, 280 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I mean, it's mostly all in the second half, but
yeah. I mean, at least they try to fight their way back. But the defense for the Steelers just absolutely had no answer for Derrick Henry whatsoever. And this is what got the Ravens in trouble last year against the Chiefs, running the ball 4 times. Well, this time they say, hey, you know what? Let's just hand the ball to our workhorse 28 times real quick. Let them go for 186.
Yeah, my biggest thing is, the reason to success, like what we said, Derrick Henry, my biggest caution point, I want to know yours on this. Lamar Jackson was a little banged up. They couldn't stop the pass really in the second half. And again, they were one-dimensional, so that's going to happen. You can play a lot more cover 2, that kind of stuff, like Tampa 2. But they gave the ball to Lamar Jackson to run the ball 15 times again. And I get he's so good, but have him run the ball 5 times. Derrick Henry's still 26, and then get Justin Hill the ball 11 times. I don't understand the constant need to have this guy put himself out there when you don't have to do that. You're going to get hurt. He's going to get exposed in that way, and you just can't do that, because this Baltimore team legitimately could win a Super Bowl, but you got to have Derrick Henry get the ball a ton of times, and got to keep Lamar Jackson healthy and make it so he can make the run.
Yeah, you don't want your quarterback running that many times, especially when your running back is, breaking off chunk runs like he was. I mean, there's just no reason for it. And now, like you said, you put your quarterback in, harm's way and potentially knock him out of a playoff game at some point. Just not smart.
Yeah. Now we can move on real quick to the next game, the one that we probably is the most. If I saw the scoreboard, I'm like, nope, that makes total sense. It's also the noon game, so I don't know how many people actually watched it. In comparison, Bills versus Broncos, Buffalo destroys. I mean, it wasn't even a ball game. This game was over so quick.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we both expected. I'm going to say it one last time, because we've said it for the last 4 months. The Broncos can't beat anyone with the winning record outside of week 2, and then the Chiefs sitting everyone. We knew this was going to happen. Bo Nix looked like a rookie quarterback. They have no run game, and for some reason, their defense did not show up whatsoever.
Yeah, well, and that's another thing that the Buffalo is doing really well this year that they hadn't in previous years, is they are letting James Cook run the ball. 23 carries. Yeah. Obviously, a lot of this is because they were dominating early on, but James Cook has also done something this year that we really gave him a bad rap for last year and the year before, is that the dude can't find the end zone, but he does now. He does get in the end zone.
Yep.
The weirdest thing for me, though, is that the receivers don't seem to – there's not a go-to receiver, and that's the limiting factor I see with the Bills right now is like if James Cook gets bottled up by one of these good run defenses, and there's two of them out there still in the AFC alone, what does it look like for this team moving forward? With Josh Allen can run like crazy, but if someone, they can close him up enough, Superman. That's the limiting factor right now because Amari Cooper is not a number one right now.
I mean, we both thought the Amari Cooper trade was going to really open up this offense even more, and it really hasn't. I mean, I think out of all the wide receivers, I mean, Keon Coleman and Shakir's played really solid also the last part of the season. So I mean, at least you got two guys that are being productive, but they're not being productive enough to be a legitimate number one where teams have to really key in on them.
Yeah. So I don't know, there's a whole lot. I mean, we're going to spend a lot more time on this one with our prediction episode as we get closer to the weekend. So make sure, again, that you're subscribed if you're not already so we can go through those. And I promise you, we're going to bring a much better prediction record this weekend in all 4 games. I'm calling it right now. So, maybe you need to have Tubby only predict because he still he went 4-2 this last week. I went 3-3. So far, but in these games, obviously we both lost. The Texans won. Both won. These last two we won. It was just this next game is the one that got me because I still believed in Jordan Love and the Packers, and they only put 3 points up in the first 3 quarters of this game. So you're a Packers fan. Is this that the Eagles just truly dominated, or that the Packers have got to go back to the workshop and retool something?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. That defense for the Eagles played really good in the first half. I think things really got off to a bad start with the opening kickoff. I will die on my
I'm with you on this.
Keyshawn Nixon absolutely 100% had the football laying on his back with control. Don't know how they didn't overturn that. And I think it kind of took the air out of the sails, and then it basically gave Philly, at least 3 points. They ended up scoring a touchdown, and you don't give up that touchdown, and the Packers, you're able to maintain the football or whatever. You take that touchdown away, it's only a 5-point game, and then Jordan Love isn't forced to just try to chunk one up at the end of the game and hope for something because you're down 12 points. Yeah. So I think that, put them at a disadvantage. I was pleasantly surprised how well the defense played for the Packers. They really bottled up Saquon. I mean, besides the couple 20 and 30-yard runs, they really kept him in check for the most part. And then Jalen Hurts and that offense, I mean, A.J. Brown had 1 catch. The guy was reading a book on the sideline.
Yeah, he was reading more than he was catching the ball, which I think everyone laughed about that. But
they're going to have to find a number one wide receiver. As much as I love the receiving group, they have a lot of number twos. There just isn't that guy that you can consistently throw the football to. Romeo hasn't been super consistent. Jayden Reed definitely hasn't been consistent this year. And then then Christian Watson, can't count on him to stay on the field. So I think they're going to have to go out there, find something, whether it's, maybe bring back Devontae Adams, or they've talked about, kicking the tires on T. Higgins, that they may be super, hard on him because they have quite a bit of money in cap space because they're going to have somewhere close to $80 million because with the cutting of Jair Alexander at the end of the year. So maybe they do something, trade, I don't know, but they're going to have to find someone that they consistently can throw the football to and count on.
Well, I think that's the part. Like, if when it comes down to playoff football, I'm going to make a baseball comparison real quick, but it's going to make sense. Baseball, you can have a bunch of really solid starting pitchers, but once it comes down to the playoffs, you have to have that ace, and your ace needs to be better than the other teams because they have one too. And that's what I feel like with the Packers is that you have a lot of really good depth for the wide receivers. There's a lot of talent out there, but there is not what you said, that number one go-to wide receiver that, I can throw the ball to him 10 times. Their leading target guy was Dontavian Wicks with 6 targets in this game. We need to see a guy, especially if you're losing and you're going to be passing the ball, that you can have him and trust that he's going to win in this coverage, or at least that, defense has to play a little bit better for it. But I mean,
and
the Packers
they're going to have to get to the jug machine because they led the NFL in drops. I mean, the fact that you can't even trust the wide receivers to catch the ball a lot of times is another frustrating factor.
Yeah. Again, I love the structure of this team. I don't think this is
Mhm.
a team that you had to really worry about or anything like that. They still ran
No.
the ball despite the fact that they were losing, which I love.
Mhm.
And Jordan Love. Some of the questions here, and we'll get again. I have a question about these guys, and you can kind of
Mhm.
answer it then. But Jordan Love has a little bit of questionableness to him right now. And as a Packers fan, do you
Mhm.
believe that's justified, or you think this is part of the growing pains and the lack of weapons?
I think it's both. I think that it's definitely justified. He makes a lot of ill-advised throws. I mean that first the interception to Bond. I mean, like you didn't even see the defender standing in the middle of the field. So he trusts his arm a lot, which something that Packers quarterbacks are known for. I mean, we saw Brett Favre, the gunslinger mentality, something that the Packers look for, and Aaron Rodgers was the same way, but he was such a great thrower of the football that he was able to place pretty much the ball wherever he wanted. So it
Wherever you want it.
didn't
Yeah.
bite him in the butt as much until the back end of his career in Green Bay. And so I think that is both. I still 100% believe Jordan Love is a franchise quarterback. I think that he's just going to have to, rein things in a little bit more. And I think they absolutely need to go out there and get a legitimate number one wide receiver. And then I think one thing that a lot of people aren't talking about for the Packers side of the game was Elton Jenkins going down so early. I mean, you lose your best offensive lineman, and those guys that replaced him had a total of 5 penalties, 3 holding
Yeah, it was
penalties,
terrible.
one
Terrible.
downfield, a couple false starts. So yeah, it just the lack of depth on the offensive line hurt whenever Jordan Morgan went down because he probably would have took over there and been more suffice than these other
Yeah.
two rookies that they had that were drafted in the 6th and 7th round.
Yeah. Which played much like a sixth and seventh round rookie you would expect. So
Yep.
let's move on to the other game that I think got us both was Daniels elevates Washington to their first playoff win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the
Yeah.
road since 2005. And I'm going to say the biggest difference in this game was, unfortunately, was that fumble
Yeah.
that Baker had as he tripped and kind of tried to get the ball there on the jet sweep kind of play.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's super frustrated about it, but is this? I mean, did you see enough from the Commanders to think that, hey, I actually see like another upset this next week, or is this a one and done team that just eked out a win?
Yeah, I think it's just a one and done team. They played great. Jayden
Jayden
Daniels,
Daniels played great. Yeah.
yeah, Jayden Daniels did not play like a rookie quarterback like we saw from Bo Nix. We saw Jayden Daniels, and especially in those big crunch time plays, Jayden Daniels is special for a rookie quarterback to be able
Yeah.
to have that much composure and moxie to be able to do what he does
Mm-hmm.
late in the games because we've seen it throughout the whole season. When it
Yeah.
comes late in the game, if Jayden Daniels has the football, you're not feeling too great if you're on the other end because more than likely he's going to march his team down the field and score.
Yeah.
So they definitely have the ceiling for them is sky high right now because the defense, as long as it keeps building, they build on that secondary. The defensive line is incredible. They got great linebackers. They're just going to have to build the secondary, and you got a great quarterback. Get you another running back in there because I don't think Brian Robinson can be counted on. We haven't seen him really play great football the second half after the injuries. I was surprised I didn't know Austin Eckler was playing. I thought
Yeah.
Eckler was out for the rest of the season, so that was a good boost for the most part because at least it gave him somewhat of a
Mm-hmm.
target in the pass game out of the backfield. But yeah, I just don't think that they're capable of going to Detroit and beating Detroit.
That's a tough home field advantage to win against, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And especially if you're not consistently running the ball. Now, they did run the ball outside of Jaden Daniels 20 times in this game, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't terrible, but they
Yeah.
were not effective in it at all. And
No.
you're going to have to do that if you're going to beat Detroit because you're going to have to
Yeah.
keep that offense off of the
Mm-hmm.
field. I do think the Buccaneers, I mean, they got a really good setup going forward with
Mm-hmm.
Bucky Irving still had a great game.
Yeah.
Baker's biggest knock this year was, in fact, just the turnovers, right? I
Turnovers.
mean, he had
Mm-hmm.
16 interceptions, 9 total fumbles. He only lost one plus the one in the playoffs. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that is a tough break, but he's got to work.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll see him focus on that quite a bit as
Yeah.
as the year goes on. So,
But the thing is, Baker falls into that Brett Favre-ish type quarterback, where he's a gunslinger. You're never going to take that out of his game. That's what makes him him. He is such a gunslinger. He believes he can make every throw, and a lot of times he can. But there's times where he shouldn't attempt to throw, and gets picked off, in which at times can bite him in the butt. But the fact that they were able to get where they were this year, and the fact that they were
Mm-hmm.
so competitive in this game with as many injuries that they had in that secondary. I mean, at one point you were without your top three corners, couple safeties in that game, and you still had a chance to win it. So I think that there's a lot of bright spots there for them. They can fix some of those secondary issues. Uh, they're going to be the team to beat in the NFC South for a couple more years.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't. Yeah, we can get into more of that in off-season talk. I think that's a really good question with that division specifically. So I just want a quick shout out, Matthew. Thanks for jumping in the chat and joining us today on the
Matt.
live. Last game here is the Monday night game, Minnesota versus LA in Arizona. They represent LA pretty well in this game and win 27-9. I don't even think the game was that close. I mean, the score is not close. It wasn't that close.
No, I mean, the defense for the Rams is absolutely mauled.
9 sacks.
Darnold. Yeah, 9 sacks. Sam Darnold reminded us that he was Sam Darnold still. Yeah. And part of the thing is like they had their offensive linemen out there. They had their starters outside of Darisaw. They had their starters out there for most of the game. Brian O'Neill gets hurt late, gets concussed, but they were still getting to that quarterback when Brian O'Neill was on the field. So it wasn't just that one aspect of it. So yeah, the fact that that defense was able to do what they did and shut down that incredible offense, it just kind of you wondered, last week with the Lions game, was it just because it was such a hard fought division game, or was it the Sam Darnold that we've seen before rearing his ugly head at the worst possible time? And that's what I think, kind of leaning a little closer to that. And the Rams absolutely deserve to win that game.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it was great. And this is playoff football when it comes to Matthew Stafford. Like, you can't count him out. Real quick, Sam Darnold almost lost 100 yards in sack yardage. I mean, that's not on him, but that is pretty bad. The Rams still were able to run the ball effectively. They kept it going. Or spread the ball out. Obviously, Cooper Kupp only had one catch. I mean, I'm a little worried. I would not be buying much stock on Cooper Kupp next year, fantasy football-wise. I think it's gone. But LA definitely a big win as they go on to next week. So I got a quick thing. I want you to. So we've talked about all the games, and we got 4 games that we'll talk about more this week. But I want you to give me the power rankings for your top 4 teams in order from 1 to 4 right now, or 4 to 1, whichever one you prefer.
Okay, so we'll start at 4. I'm gonna go with the Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
I think they have everything there, but you pointed out to the one thing that I have big questions about is, when it comes down to it, do they have the guy to go to? When the game's on the line, do they have the guy that they can count on to go out there, beat the defender, and move the chains, keep the ball moving? I don't know if that they do, and this game this week is going to be super tough. So next, I'm going to go with the Ravens, the team that they're playing. I think that as long as they can somewhat stop teams' passing games, which this game sets up well for them because they don't have to worry about big-time wide receiver on the other side. As long as they can stop the passing game, we know they can stop the run game. Don't let Lamar run the football a whole lot and just keep on feeding Derrick Henry. You're going to have success. 3 is the Detroit Lions. We haven't got to see them play yet in the postseason, but I still think that even with all the injuries on the defensive side, they are still an incredibly dangerous team, no matter who they're playing, where they're playing. This team is, the reason why they have the record that they have. I mean, Jared Goff, that offense is unmatched right now. There's no offense
it's
in the
incredible.
NFL I would take over them. Yeah, it's insane. But I think that they're number 2, and then number 1, I think you still have to give to the Chiefs. Until someone can take them out in the postseason, the Chiefs are still the number 1 team. I don't care what their record is. They make it to the playoffs. That's a team you do not want to see because we know they know how to win.
Yeah, and I agree with all you. The only, because I'm not going to go copy paste, but I'm going to change it just a little bit. Number 4, I'm going to go with Baltimore until I can. I've seen Lamar win that game. I have not seen Lamar win the next game. That's the one I want to see. So if they can this week, we'll definitely bump them up even going forward next year. But still number 4. Number 3, I am going to put the Buffalo Bills. They're solid. I trust that like what they can do. Josh Allen is Superman. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to give him that. The next one, and I trust that they'll give James Cook the ball. I still don't trust that Derrick Henry's going to get the ball 20-plus times. We'll see.
Yeah, we know.
Especially if they get down. But you better give him the ball.
Yeah.
Then at number 2, I am going to put the Chiefs. And it's close. I think they're close to the Bills because the Bills beat both the Chiefs and the Lions, despite having the worst record. But I'm going to put the Chiefs only because I haven't seen them, and they have dominated, but it's such a long time off that I'm a little bit anxious where the Lions did the opposite, and they kept the machine rolling those last weeks where the Chiefs just haven't had to play football. So I'm worried a little bit about Russ. Give me the well machine at number 1 at Detroit. But, I mean, all 4 of these teams, if they made the Super Bowl run, plus maybe the Eagles, I don't think we would be surprised.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that all the teams outside of maybe the Texans, I think that that we thought should win, for the most part, won. I mean, granted, you thought the Eagles would win. I thought the Packers had a chance, but I just didn't trust, that they would be able to do it. But I think that all in all, the better teams won. And there's one caveat to every single one of these teams that won, except for maybe like one that didn't run it super effectively. They ran the football. They ran the football. And this is what we saw last year, too, in the playoffs. And this is what, blows my mind, that teams do not grasp this concept.
Yeah.
Run the football. And all the teams that lost outside of the Packers were not able to run the football.
And they got Josh Jacobs, so it makes sense that they ran the football. That was a good move.
Yeah.
All right, so I want you to rank these 4 quarterbacks.
Okay.
All right? You have Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Sam Darnold, or Baker Mayfield. Rank them.
Yeah, so, I mean.
Who you want right now going forward?
Jordan Love, to me, out of them, is the one guy that I look at that I can for sure say I think upside-wise has a chance to be a top 5 quarterback. Then I'll go Baker. I mean, what Baker did this year, and I know it's going to sound homerish because I am an OU fan, but you cannot
Packers,
take away.
Sooners, and who cares?
Yeah, you cannot take away from what Baker Mayfield did this year.
Yeah.
40 touchdowns. Yeah, the interceptions, not great, but he was still able to lead this team with a terrible defense to a division win and, a home field game in the playoffs. I'll take Herbert next just because I don't put a whole lot of it on him because, I mean, look at, he did have 4 interceptions, but who's he throwing the football to? Besides Lad McConkey, who's he throwing the football to?
Yeah.
He just doesn't have those weapons there, and especially when he needs it to push the ball down the field, he just can't count on those guys. And then I'll put Sam Darnold there at last just because we've seen him do it one year. This is the only year he's ever been productive in the NFL.
Yeah.
If he leaves, do we see him doing this again at a different team? I don't think so.
No, I 100% agree with all those things. So, guys, that is going to be the episode. But we have one last thing. If you also came here for maybe some college football, we'll have actually an episode that releases tomorrow. So you can make sure, again, like I said, this is the 3rd time I'm telling you to make sure you don't miss the show. So hit subscribe because we'll have that released tomorrow. And you obviously can download the podcast. We have about every other one on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, so make sure you still can do that if you want to on the go. Otherwise, we're always going to be on YouTube. So, Tubby, there is a giveaway this month, and I hear that there is a couple hints. And so people, if they guess it right in the comment section, you can get extra entries for this month's giveaway. What's our hint this time?
So, first hint was he's a Hall of Fame linebacker.
Okay.
Second hint is he's a Super Bowl winning linebacker.
Ray Lewis. Got it. You're welcome, everybody. Put that in the chat. No.
and I will say, this guy is more recent than the last guy. A lot more recent than the last guy.
It's true.
And he is a much bigger name. So keep that in mind.
Still going with, it's not actually Ray Lewis. It'd be hard to give that one away. But anyway, so again, put your guesses in the chat. We want you to get this free giveaway this month. So we'll make an announcement as we go. And believe it or not, I know we just had Christmas. The month of January is already halfway over. So it's flying by. But we always want to say thank you guys so much for joining the show. Live episodes are always fun because they go back to kind of what we used to do all the time. It's a little bit longer of an episode too. So thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for being in the chat. We're excited for tomorrow's episode. Till then, see y'all next time.
See ya.